I never thought a simple wooden bridge would cause this much chaos. But here we are. This is the story of how my peaceful life by the lake turned into a battle with the Homeowners Association. One that ended with me draining the water right out from under their multi-million-dollar lakefront mansions. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it started when the HOA decided that my private bridge, built with my own hands, on my own land, was somehow a community safety hazard. Without warning, without a proper conversation, they sent a crew in and completely tore it down. No apology, no compensation, just gone. Now, to understand why that bridge mattered so much, you've got to know this. It wasn't just some walkway. It connected a small island I owned in the lake, my personal retreat, my quiet escape. That bridge meant everything to me. And seeing it ripped apart like trash, it hit a nerve I didn't even know I had. I tried to talk to the board, reason, with them, but they brushed me off like I didn't matter. That's when I started digging, literally and legally. And what I found out? Let's just say the HOA had built their precious mansions right around a man-made lake. A lake that technically relied on a few critical water control features that just so happened to be located on my property. Property they never thought twice about, until I did something they never expected. This wasn't about revenge. It was about making a point, that you can't just steamroll people and expect no consequences. So yeah, when I shut off the water, flow, and that lake started to drop, let's just say a lot of very rich people started panicking real fast. And the best part? I hadn't even pulled my final move yet. To really understand how things got this far, let me take you back a bit. I bought this piece of land almost a decade ago. It wasn't much at first, just a wooded lot at the edge of what was then a quiet lake. No fancy houses, no luxury cars, just peace and open space. Over the years, I added small things. The bridge came first. I built it myself, step by step, to reach a little island that barely anyone noticed. It became my weekend escape. A spot to fish, read, and sometimes just sit in silence. No noise, no neighbors, just nature. Then came the development. Big investors moved in, and the HOA was born. Suddenly, the lake became a community feature, and the calm turned into construction, parties, and rules. A lot of rules. I was one of the few original property owners left, and from the start, the HOA treated me like I didn't belong. They sent notices about unauthorized structures, meaning my bridge. They questioned the dock I had used for years. I even got warnings about the color of my storage shed. It was ridiculous. But I played along. I showed up at meetings, I asked questions, I tried to stay civil. Still, they kept pushing. And when they took down that bridge without even so much as knocking on my door, I knew this wasn't just about rules. It was personal. They wanted control, total control. And in their rush to dominate the lakefront, they forgot one little detail. The water system they depended on was routed through an old irrigation channel, on my land. It was barely noticeable, just a few pipes and a small gate valve. But when that valve closes, the lake doesn't refill. It drains. Slowly. Quietly. And the HOA had no idea what was coming next. At first, no one noticed anything was wrong. The lake level dropped just an inch or two. Most folks thought it was just a dry spell or some issue with the weather. The HOA didn't say a word, but within a week, docks started sitting higher than they should. Boats were resting in mud instead of water. That's when the calls started. People panicking, asking the HOA what was going on. Of course, they had no clue. Their so-called maintenance crew kept checking the lake pumps and storm drains, thinking maybe there was a leak or blockage. Meanwhile, I just kept mowing my lawn like nothing was happening. What they didn't know was that behind the tree line on my property was the old water control station. Years ago, when the lake was first developed, the original owners set up a Simple gravity-fed irrigation system to keep the water balanced between the lake and surrounding wetlands. That system still worked, and I had the only key. It was quiet, hidden, and completely legal. I wasn't damaging anything. I was just choosing not to refill the lake. Around this time, some neighbors started getting suspicious. A few people who had been friendly before suddenly stopped waving. I noticed a couple HOA board members driving past my property more than once, real slow, like they were trying to figure something out. They even sent a letter asking to inspect the edge of my land for possible drainage issues. I didn't respond. Then, things got weirder. I found footprints near the gate to the old water channel, like someone had tried to sneak in at night. I installed a trail cam just in case. A few days later, the camera caught someone in a HOA staff jacket, walking through my trees with a flashlight. That's when I realized this wasn't just a disagreement anymore. It was a standoff, and neither side was backing down. The tension around the neighborhood was thick. The lake was now visibly lower, exposing rocks, lake bed, even the base of some docks. People who once bragged about their lakefront views were now drawing their blinds. Property values were dropping fast, and everyone was pointing fingers. The HOA held an emergency meeting, packed with angry homeowners demanding answers. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. Word travels fast in small communities, especially when panic sets in. From what I heard, they still had no idea how or why the water was vanishing. Some were even blaming natural sinkholes or faulty engineering. Nobody suspected the quiet guy at the edge of the lake, but behind the scenes, things were escalating. I got a visit from a lawyer representing the HOA. He showed up unannounced with a thick folder of papers and a polite but firm smile. He said, they were investigating possible tampering with community infrastructure. I didn't let him pass the gate. I told him this was private land, and if they had questions, they could go through proper channels. He left, but not before warning that the board would be pursuing legal options. It didn't shake me. I knew the law better than they thought. They had overstepped first, ripping down my bridge without approval or even a court order. Still, things were getting serious. I started noticing new faces around. Guys pretending to jog but constantly circling the property, a parked SUV just sitting for hours by the edge of the woods. I could feel the pressure building. It wasn't just about the water anymore. This was power versus principle, and while the HOA scrambled for answers, I was preparing for the moment they'd try something big. The lake was almost half gone now. The docks were unusable. Fancy kayaks sat dry. Some homeowners started moving out. But the board, they weren't giving up. And I knew. The showdown was coming. Just when I thought things couldn't get more intense, something unexpected happened that flipped everything. One morning, I woke up to find a small construction crew setting up near the border of my property, right by the old maintenance road that leads to the water channel. No warning, no letter, nothing. Just cones, a backhoe, and a few workers pretending like they were fixing something. I knew immediately this wasn't a coincidence. The HOA had hired someone to try and access the channel from their side, hoping to bypass me altogether. I confronted them. Calm but firm. I asked what they were doing on the edge of my land, and one guy mumbled something about routine lakebed inspection. I told them to leave or show a permit. They left, but I knew this wasn't over. The HOA was getting desperate. The lake was now at a critical low. You could walk across certain spots without even getting your shoes wet. Wildlife was disappearing. The so-called lakefront views? More like mudfield real estate now. It was only a matter of time before the homeowners demanded action, and the board would do anything to save face. Then came the twist I didn't expect. I got a call from someone on the HOA board, not just anyone, one of the original members who had been quiet through this whole thing. She said she wanted to talk, privately. She showed up that evening. No board jacket, no lawyer, just her and a folder. What she showed me inside changed everything. Turns out the HOA had never officially recorded the bridge demolition as a board-approved action. No vote, no documentation. It had been pushed through by a couple of board members using forged signatures. She had proof, emails, meeting notes, even internal complaints that were ignored. And suddenly, this wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. It was a full-on scandal waiting to blow up. But she didn't come forward for justice. She had her own reasons. And that's when I realized I wasn't the only one playing this game. I sat across from her at my kitchen table, flipping through the folder she brought. Every page was a piece of the puzzle. The fake signatures, board emails with hush-hush deals, even a proposal to reroute funds meant for lake upkeep into private landscaping for two of the board members. This wasn't just about my bridge anymore. The HOA had been running a shady operation for years, and the collapse of the lake was starting to expose everything. She told me she didn't agree with what was going on, but she was afraid to speak. Up until now. Her hands were shaking. She wasn't looking for revenge. She wanted leverage. That night, I made a decision. I took everything she gave me and contacted a local reporter I trusted. Within days, the story broke. The headline was everywhere. HOA scandal exposed after sudden lake drain sparks outrage. It hit fast. News vans lined up. Homeowners flooded. Social media with complaints. A full audit was launched. The two board members who orchestrated the bridge demolition resigned by the end of the week. And just like that, the power they clung to vanished. But here's where the real twist came in. When the inspectors came to assess the lake infrastructure, they confirmed something no one expected. That old water control system on my property? It wasn't just a leftover irrigation setup, it was the only source feeding the lake. Apparently, during early development, the builders skipped building a permanent inflow channel and relied on my land's system without ever securing rights to it. Legally, the lake had been living on borrowed water the whole time. So, in a strange way, draining. The lake didn't just prove a point, it revealed the truth. The HOA had destroyed their own foundation without even knowing it. And while the new board begged to negotiate for water access again, I wasn't in a hurry to reopen that valve. After all, they took my bridge. I just returned the favor, with interest. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood changed. The HOA was completely restructured, with most of the old board replaced by new members who were actually willing to listen. They came to me with respect this time, not threats or demands. They asked if I'd consider restoring the water system under a new agreement, one that actually acknowledged my rights and included fair compensation for access and maintenance. I didn't say yes right away. I needed time. Not to hold a grudge, but to make sure this wasn't just another quick fix to cover their mistakes. The woman who had brought me the folder ended up resigning too, but not before helping clean up the mess she'd once been part of. She and I stayed in touch. It turned out she had bought her house to retire in peace, not get dragged into HOA politics. Funny how the quietest voices sometimes carry the most weight when things fall apart. As for the lake, it's slowly coming back. I reopened the valve a bit, just enough to let nature find its balance again. The birds returned. The fish started to come back too. It'll take time, but the point was made. You don't get to bulldoze your way through someone else's life just because you think you can. What started as a simple wooden bridge ended up revealing how fragile power really is when it's built on entitlement instead of respect. I didn't need revenge, I just wanted to be heard. And in the end, that's what this whole story comes down to. When people forget how to talk, how to respect boundaries, nature, and people have a way of reminding them. Quietly, steadily, and sometimes with the turn of a single valve.